Go fuck yourself.
What's up, guys? Now, usually I'm a little bit quicker to making videos like these, especially when something, big happens in the league racing community. As When it comes to looking back on events like the Great Boomening and the Great Bogerning, those both of those videos came out within about 24 to 48 hours after the event initially happened because it was fresh and everybody wanted to hear about it. And what person is better to hear from than me, myself, and I? Because I just feel like I'm pretty decent at explaining some of these things. Now, I will say this. While this story may not be like a curveball, like Boger calling someone a monkey, or Josh saying Martin Luther King Day shouldn't be celebrated, it is a curveball more towards the actual league and problems within it, and I'm talking about JLAB or C Cups. Now, for some backstory, the NASCAR C Cup series used to just be that a NASCAR league, and then I guess JLAB or the aka the F1 series got added along the way. Now there's some other series, but that's fucking irrelevant, especially for this video. Now I will say this: I've raced in JLAB part time all the way up until not all the way, but these past 2 seasons, I would say I was kind of like a part time guy, and for this season I went full time. And I actually posted some videos before showcasing some of these races and stuff I was in. They had a lot of people's, chaos at most races and stuff like that. The best race was ironically the first race of the season, in my opinion. And there's a few things to look at here. And first off, it's what happened. So basically, JLab has this, lower series called JLab Light. And now I wish I was present for this event because it would have been hilarious to be involved in it at close range, as I usually am with most of these like drama events that go down, which is kind of what's unique about this one to me is that I wasn't present for it. Um, Apparently, here's what happened. Here's what I got from it. Um, so basically, Grigga and Steven, the ownership of JLab Live, I think Steven owns it or Grigga owns it or something. I think Grigga's more in control of it though. Like Grigga should be the guy to look at for the rules and changes being made in JLab Live. Grigga's the guy to look for in that. That's kind of what I got out of it. And Steven, while owning the league and the higher series, it seemed like Grigga had the notion that he was going to be able to make decisions in JLab Light. Now, I actually haven't really seen this problem as much in league racing, if at all, really, before when it comes to people getting a little bit pissed off about how much ownership they have over a certain series. I guess it's happened before, but I haven't really seen it branch out into a huge thing, which this is exactly what this turned into. So basically, JLab Light, I think they were about to race it. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I don't remember. Again, I wasn't here for this. Um, but they were going to race, and basically what I got was I think Steven left for a second or just wasn't on the mic for a second or whatever, or maybe was there the whole time. But basically, they all get into the race, and someone, I think lags out or something like that. Something of that notion to wherever it gets to a point where Greg says, okay, everybody back out. And basically, people start backing out. And then Steven came in saying for nobody to back out and that the race is still on and stuff when people had already backed out. As far as I know, I may be a little incorrect. I was told this story nearing a week ago, but I'm pretty sure that is what happened. Whether or not that story is inaccurate, hell, my story could have been so inaccurate, Steven in reality could have fucked a moose or some shit on live television. I don't know. All that needs to be known, however, is that Steven fucked up. And, for a dude who's been owning a league for a while now, since NASCAR Heat 2, you expect these mistakes to come less and less over time, but this seemed to actually be one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made, apparently, at least with the backlash that happened. Now, C Cups has had a lot of naysayers over the years. And funny enough, those naysayers are the people who race the NASCAR League and race JLAB a lot. And I kind of had this complaint when I used the race league racing a lot, is that everybody would always complain about C Cups outside of the races, but they would still race, which it's kind of annoying to see. It's kind of like, bro, when these people are talking shit about the league, do they really mean what they're saying, or they're just talking off a Percocet? But that's besides the point. The main point is stay true to your word, really. And and again, the same thing is happening right now, but it seems like the action taken after Steven's mistake here has been way more action than taken in previous instances of stuff like this with this league, or any other league, honestly, in that matter. Because multiple people have left. Zach, main title contender for Grega, has left. And yes, there are some people willing to help Steve now. It's not like they completely left him in the dust to fuck off and jerk off in the sand. There are people helping. But, and hell, there's still some people racing, but I do think attendance numbers are going to be down off just assumption and all that stuff. And while I didn't really care regardless. League dies, the league dies. Another one will be created. But I doubt it will die, but I'm saying in terms of just the activity, the activeness of it, in terms of a lot of people racing, stuff like that, the support for it, which despite JLAB having record-breaking attendance averages for this season, it's kind of been a sucky season. It's just most races have been filled with chaos, and this also goes back to my point about doing an F1 league with a bunch of people with the equivalent IQ of the Cosby kids. Is this, and I'm a part of that bunch, don't get me wrong. If you take a bunch of people that started out on NASCAR racing, the whole Rubbins racing and all that shit, if you try to translate that into all of them racing F1, while we all love racing F1, let's be honest, we're not all genetically gifted F1 racers when it comes to the sport. In fact, there's a lot of people here in JLAB that are really off the pace and also wrecking balls. Combined, and believe it or not, there's some people that are not only off pace, well, they got both the package. They're off pace and they're wrecking balls. Just ask Mechanic, for instance, or look at him, for instance. But that's besides the point. What I'm getting at is a lot of people just aren't like the cleanest racers on F1. Hell, I make some mistakes sometimes here and there. But you can just see, like, if you were to watch a JLAB race or like Smalls, like, you would tell at times, okay, these guys, they haven't raced F1 as much as, like, let's just say, like, Tiamat Marduk or something. Meanwhile, or Arava, obviously. But meanwhile, on Heat 5, it's way more, I guess, in some ways clean. It depends. Heat 5 is also a game with horrible lag issues at times, horrible netcode, and I love complaining about this when it comes to NASCAR Heat 5, even if it's not even relevant to this conversation. I'm just going to say it. You can't even take fucking left side tires. But that, again, I digress. Back to the main point here. Back to the people leaving and stuff. We had some, I'm trying to think. It was Zach. I think Cody left. And I think Small left. Not too sure about that one. But basically, just a lot of people aren't really fucking with JLAB anymore. Now, you're probably wondering, wow, usually leagues suffer massive fallout from a way bigger event than something that happened in a lower series race. Yes, which is, again, why this situation is so unique to me. And it's interesting, however, but it's kind of one of those things that's building up to the last straw. I mean, we think about this. Let's go all the way back through just this season. Steven, I think he's off college or whatever. He's just having a good amount of time on his hands right now, even though if that time he has on his hands is going to significantly shrink down soon, whether it's for college or a job or something. So he's trying to cram a whole season in with multiple double headers and stuff. Now, that usually doesn't become an issue, except when it comes to the fact that not only does JLAB race nearly every night, yes, they've taken a few day break here, but not only do they race almost every night or every other night, so like I said, backtracking to the point I made earlier about the wrecking balls and just the amount of incidents there are in races. And Steven, see how problems are building up upon problems here. Steven wants a lot and a lot of incidents, pretty much every one, to be recorded. Obviously, he doesn't care as much about the little stuff, but he would still prefer for it to be sent in chat, or sent to him. So think about it. Think about you as an owner having to go through clips of 18-person F1 races from NASCAR natives with incidents almost every lap of the race, red flags, safety cars, coming just about as often as someone having to take a piss after drinking 7 liters of Mountain Dew. And that, my friends, is a recipe for fucking disaster in any case. Even if you had fucking, I don't know, a damn Navy general leading the way. It's just a hard thing for any owner to do, and I'm surprised Steven has even attempted at doing it, which is, I'm pretty impressed with that in general. But, however, accountability needs to be taken. I personally don't think it was the best idea to try to rush through a season. Yes, it has been done before, but just with the rushed attendance numbers, multiple penalties needing to be handed out, and all the incidents, all the stuff in general, having to do points, which, yes, points being done has been a huge issue this season, even if those for F1 points seem a little bit easier. I don't know if JLAB has like a different points format than the normal F1 format. I personally don't know. I probably should know that. I just don't. But yeah, points haven't came out for races for a while. I think they may have just came out, but there was a long period where they weren't done. And it's just a whole buildup. Thing is, this is a great topic to bring up when it comes to the penalties and stuff, and just it being easier for Steven to fall behind on all this stuff. At Bahrain, I intent wrecked mechanic. Look, me and Grega were practically, we were battling for third position. It was only going to be us in the fight, as far as I know. There wasn't anyone in the picture after a wreck behind us. There wasn't anybody in the picture. We didn't really have a shot at the leaders. It was just a battle for third. So, bare minimum, barring a wreck, which I rarely wreck in JLAB, really, unless if it's like a street course. I rarely wreck in there. I'm about 70% of the time good at keeping myself out of issues and trouble. Then, all of a sudden, I get out of the pits. I chase down Mechanic. I gained like a second on him in a sector. And that, funny enough, he was just exactly a second ahead of me around there. So I go around his outside. He has a seizure or a heart attack, the fact that a car's passing him, because usually he's in dead last, so no cars ever pass him because he doesn't have to worry about getting passed. So, okay, that was fucked up. He's not in dead last, but you get the notion of what I'm trying to say here. Mechanic just not used to this game, full sends, fucks my wing, and I say, you know what? Here's my mathematical thinking or scientific thinking in that situation. I don't think this is mathematical or scientific. I don't know why the fuck I said either of those terms. I said, it's easy to fall behind on penalties and shit like this. I'm going to just intent wreck mechanic. What's the worst that can happen? My suspension isn't going to be able to come into effect for a while. And funny enough, I intent wreck mechanic, or at least try to. I'm not good at intent wrecking people because usually I don't have to intent wreck people. Most of the time, I am raced cleanly. But there was just a rare occasion. I even decided to go the extra mile the next race and start fucking with mechanic and qualifying and all that. And he proceeded to start talking shit to me in DMs or in PlayStation and all that. Or I don't know if he was talking shit. I honestly kind of forgot. But then at Bahrain, all this shit kind of came back into fruition when he wrecked in front of the whole entire field on a safety car restart. But now, while that can be used as a testament, this was before the JLAB light change and all that, but while this can be used as a testament to go back to the point of the talent being an issue on the lower levels, it also comes to fruition as the fact, wait, Orange, why the fuck were you racing in the next race? You just intent wrecked somebody. Well, like I said, this was a doubleheader night, as far as I know. Yeah, it was. So I guess Steven didn't worry about penalties from the last race, and that's also when the double headers can come into fruition. When you have so much incidents and all this stuff, double headers and shit, that's kind of hard to do if there's so much shit to cover from the first race. And I'm not calling Steven a shit owner, but it kind of just becomes a recipe for just a shit cake of moose and cow shit at the end of the day. That's just really how it goes. And it's not like somebody else can manage this any better than Steven has, but at the same time, it is Steven's fault for putting himself in the situation, forcing himself to run his league, or whatever the cause is, rushing it. Even if he has to rush it, at the end of the day, it's still accountability needs to be made, obviously, which he did make accountability in this huge monologue that rivals the length of the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to read the first paragraph so you guys can get the gist of it. To start, I would like to thank all of those who were here. Running a league has never been easy and would be impossible without the many of who race with us. That said, it is not easy by any means. It is impossible to always do it perfectly. And sometimes I, as a human, make mistakes. Sunday night, I made a few mistakes. Well, also, I love how Steven put as a human in parentheses as if we think he's like a fucking alien. I don't think you're an alien, but I'm just playing. It's just, I don't know. Fuck, man. Make mistakes. Sunday night, I made a few mistakes. That's when the JLAB Light event happened and all that. I made mistakes in how and how I operated things. Some mistakes that would not have come up had I better communicated a few things in the past. As we look forward to a better future for this league, I want to make as many improvements as possible. Below, I am listing a few things that I feel are important to be noted before we race tonight. Now, that's where I'll stop right there because I'm going to keep it 100 with everybody listening and watching this video. I am not reading that shit because, first off, I don't want to have an aneurysm trying to read and talk because I do enough of that shit in ELA. I'm not trying to do it when I'm making a YouTube video on a fucking F1 league. Now, I will say this, Steven looking to make improvements in writing Declaration of Independence rivaling, testaments. It's impressive to see that and to show how much he cares. Now, obviously, Steven, he mentions himself, he makes a few mistakes. Steven may or may not have fucked a 15-year-old. Yes, he may or may not have fucked a 15-year-old. I'm cutting that out. Shit.
Go fuck yourself.
Okay, we are back on the air. Anyways, as I was saying, humans make mistakes. People make mistakes all the time. Look, which is why I think it's not the mistake that was a big mistake. It was more of just, I guess, mistakes added up over time. At least from what I'm hearing from people, I'm not going to name drop as much as that would make shit spicy. But I'm not going to name drop. But multiple people have said they never thought Steve was a good owner. I feel like, in my opinion, they're just now doing something about it. I don't know. It's just this. It's always been this weird thing with me where a lot of people wouldn't talk good about C-Cups. Hell, I wouldn't talk good about C-Cups. I personally didn't like the NASCAR side of things. I didn't really know why. And I always thought the reason why people raced is because Leach has been around for a long time. So longevity is a good thing to snatch onto. in terms of a thing. Like people are racing like, oh, if I win, I mean, it's not like this league's going to end next week. So that's one positive I'll always say. Excuse me, I just burped, but it, that's the only thing I could come up with really. Uh, it's just a weird thing. And it's also the thing is with JLAB, Steven really has the only F1 league right now fit for this community's like skill level and all that stuff. I mean, Small has an F1 league, but it's completely different. It's realistic performance. The AIs are really fast. Now, while there are AIs in JLAB, and in both leagues, I feel like AIs are a problem when it comes to these F1 leagues online, but that's just a different opinion for a different day. When it comes down to it, the leagues are still drastically different. And while I think there is a push being made for others to be created and stuff like that, it's all about effort and if they'll survive or not. And Steven made a point of the night this happened. Don't make decisions in the moment, which I also do agree with. It's never good to do that most of the times. Or don't make decisions like that while you're pissed off to make new leagues or leave and shit like that. However, it has been now nearing a week, and everybody's kind of sticking with the same decision, man. I don't know. At least from the people I've seen, most people stick with the same decision. So it obviously wasn't just a decision made out of just in the moment kind of thing. It was just, this is like a thing now. Like, legit. This is some shit that makes your balls just settle into position here and be like, there's some serious going on here. Because there's been a lot of things where, people get pissed off at the owner, and then next day, everybody's pissed off at the owner the day before. Next day, he's getting his dick sucked in the bathroom by all three of the people that were pissed off at him prior. And that kind of thing has happened a lot in leagues, but it seems not to be happening this time around with the JLAB. Now, obviously, I don't think it'll matter to Steven that much in terms of the attendance grand scheme of things. He has said 15 fucking times per race that he does not give a fuck about attendance. Now, obviously, I think I beg to differ, as every time we would get a lot of people for a race, he would jump up and joy and nut his fucking eye sockets out the second another person would join in and was getting closer and closer to that 20 mark. But he says he doesn't care. Let's just give him the benefit of that. He doesn't care. That won't matter. All he cares about is making his league as good as possible. As he said, he did say this a while ago. He said he'd rather have a great race with 4 people than a bad race with 16 people, which I beg to agree on some level. But league racing, to me, is a thing of competitiveness and fun and, not being a dickhead when it comes to being an owner. Making it being a competitive league, a fun league for everybody to race, and not being a dickhead. I feel like those are the 3 main goals as an owner. Now, as for the, solutions brought up to Steven, a big one is admins, whether it's more admins, the right admins, or shit like that. Stuff like that's been offered. Plenty of other things. I might attempt to maybe first. Well, I mean, he talks about here in this paragraph. He talks about Greg getting more priority and JLAB Blight and stuff, which Greg still owns that and runs it. And it was just a weird thing. And I also want to go back into the moment here of the whole JLAB event. Basically, when Steven and everybody started arguing about the back out thing, he basically, according to what I heard, he was being a dick about it, being immature. It was an argument, and apparently he just left the party eventually, which is not all the wrong things to do when you're the league owner. We've seen this happen with Dunkin' Donuts. Fuck.
Go fuck yourself.
Now, guys, we know a cardinal sin when it comes to this league owning shit and just leagues in general. If you're in an intense argument, whether you're an admin and an owner, do not just leave the party in the heat of the argument. You can't Obviously you can do that. It's a free country. It's not Nazi Germany. But I'm trying to just say this is just not a good thing to do. I'm hearing that's what he did, or at least if he didn't leave the party, he wasn't trying to, like, he was being a dick about it. Which, at the end of the day, whether I'm explaining this wrong or not, Steven did some shit that got multiple people to leave his league, got me to make a over 25-minute video on it, just based off the information that I'm just spitballing and heard off the basis of 5 people in a PlayStation party. One being of Josh, who acts like a 6-year-old sometimes, but cusses like he's a 38-year-old. Boger, who, let's just break out the obvious, he smokes. I think Griga, which the F1 sweat, and combine those 3, and you got a recipe for success. And those aren't even the only people that explained it to me, I don't think. But that's just kind of all I remember. I think maybe like Freddie and Isaiah were in the party, and Hendrick. It's people like that. But, it's just, like, I don't think Steven's going to end his league, but I do think attendance will drop. That's just my prediction. I don't know. Life goes on. And ironically, this isn't even one of the worst events we've ever had in this league racing community shit. We've had league owners get overthrown. We've had a whole debacle over whether saying the N-word or not, or being black or not should matter. We had this whole shit. I'm actually starting to feel like this league community needs its own iceberg video, which would take hours and hours to create, and I would definitely spend years of my life trying to focus on making. But all in all, this all goes to show that league racing, what leagues have y'all ever been in that have just been perfect? None. And that's kind of the whole thing to take away from this. No league is ever perfect. It's just about, at what point do you say, fuck you to the owner and fuck off and create your own shit or join some different stuff? Like, at what point does that bar get crossed? At what point does that semen just start to seep out the tip? Like, you know what I'm saying? And basically, we'll see if it's happened with JLAB. For some people, apparently the semen's, it's came out the tip and there's no condom there to stop them from exploring. And that's exactly what these people have been fucking doing. Now, it seems like a lot more F1 leagues have just been created. Seems like Cody has one. Seems like Deegan and Griga, and I think someone else has one going. I kind of forgot who the owners are. I'm starting to think dementia means you've lost memory, right? Whatever. We're stepping into treacherous territory. But yeah, this clip's about to end, and honestly, that's all I got to say. Perfect timing. No Shador Sanders. But yeah, we're out this bitch.